All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. It is 2:01 p.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Chair of the Board. To my right is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Commissioner Carolina Mejia, and my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Emily Klaus. We have Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder, and we're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Fournier.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you like to perform a land acknowledgement, Vice Chair?
We would also like to start today with a land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the indigenous Salish peoples whose elders and ancestors have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial, and who still inhabit the area today, specifically the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are going to move forward with the approval of the agenda. I'm going to ask Assistant County Manager to outline any changes in May. I know we added some advisory board appointments.
I would, yes, we actually added a couple of appointments today in which would be under now consent item 3I, which is an appointment to the Agricultural Advisory Committee of Donnie Wilcox. And we have a reappointment under J and K to the Housing Authority Board for Jay Goldstein and we actually had two Jay Goldsteins on there. So
we have a typo there on item K.
The name of our other person, Jolene Julius. Okay, Jolene Julius as well.
Okay, are there any other changes, looking at the clerk of the board to department items? Okay, so we have a proposed agenda which is outlined here in front of us with an amendment to item 3K, Jolene Julius, to be the person that's being reappointed under K. And with that, is there a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as stated with the mentioned correction.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this amended agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the agenda is approved. And next up is presentations. This afternoon, we have a proclamation for Women's History Month to present. And my understanding is we have guests from League of Women Voters to accept the proclamation and give us a little bit of context.
I'm asking everyone to come up.
Okay, yes, please.
So I'm Susan Fixdahl, Voter Services Chair from the League of Women Voters. I'm in charge of trying to get out the vote. We have a Be a Voter campaign. Our mission with the League of Women Voters is to defend democracy and empower voters. We're very pleased to accept the proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you introduce the rest of your team there?
It's not all of our team.
I understand.
I'm Jan Holloway.
Nice to meet you.
Phyllis Farrell. Karen Fraser. Cheryl Goss. Shall we do?
All right, thank you for being here. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Could I make a comment? I see Karen Fraser here, and I like to, anytime I get a chance, because I was an elected official holding another office during Karen's time, and I like to point out how now I really appreciate all the hard work that went into this job. And so thank you, Karen, for all your hard work as a county commissioner.
Having observed the county over the years, I think it's getting harder, so thank you to all of you.
All right, thank you. All right, ready for the proclamation.
All right, this is a proclamation of Thurston County for Women's History Month. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made and continue to make historic contributions to the growth and strength of Thurston County, the state of Washington, our nation, and the global community. And whereas these contributions have been critical to the growth and development of our economy, our cultural and artistic achievements, our social advancement, and all areas of accomplishment. And whereas women play a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and whereas American women are particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas American women continue to have an increasing representation as public officials in all levels of government and serve our country courageously in the military, and whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed March to be National Women's History Month, derived from International Women's Day, commemorating the working women in the early 20th century and each year since 1987. And whereas the National Women's History Month theme for 2024 celebrates women who advocate for equity, diversity, and inclusion, recognizing women who understand that for a positive future, we need to eliminate bias and discrimination entirely from our lives and institutions. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Thurston County Commissioners hereby proclaims March 2024 as Women's History Month in Thurston County and encourages all citizens to honor women for their countless contributions to our community and nation, adopted this 5th day of March 2024 and signed by the Board of County Commissioners.
All right. And present the proclamation. It's gonna.
So ladies, go ahead and step on up there. Missionaries, we're gonna take your photo.
You guys in the front center.
So we're gonna use 2 cameras, starting over here with Anna.
Sheriff's budget.
Oh, no, I'm able to get
What's so selfish?
All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. All right, one more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody.
When I make that statement, whenever I'm in a commission, I try to recognize it.
Oh, that's
because I
nice.
feel bad.
It's a tough job. It's the toughest job in politics.
And let me just add that thank you for honoring women this month, but the League of Women Voters, despite its name, is open to everyone. So welcome everyone. Thank you.
Could I ask you about these brochures?
Yes.
I think this is a great advertisement for your organization.
Yeah.
And is there any reason, Chair, we couldn't have some of these on file if they wanted to read it here?
Don't think so.
I can bring,
Another day.
I'd be very happy to bring some.
I just think it would be great exposure, and I hope there's a phone number on there as well. if
There is.
somebody wants to remember.
There is a website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, all the councils from every community in Thurston County. It's good. Good to have in their election cycles. Okay. Next up is the opportunity for the public to address the board. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate. General speaking guidelines: when you're called, introduce yourself, including the address or area of the county in which you reside. Address the board, not audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones. You're limited to a total of 4 minutes and may not donate portions of that speaking time to other speakers. No comments that are lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outbursts of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. No remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could come eventually before the board on appeal. And all written materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to the public release upon request pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 4256 of RCW. Thank you for your cooperation. We'll go through the folks that signed up. I'll give a general call for anyone that didn't sign up, and then we'll hit anyone who's on Zoom and would also like to give testimony. Yes, sir.
Just because there's a public hearing later, can you explain the difference between the public hearing and the public comment period in case there's somebody that gets into
Absolutely.
the wrong category?
We will have a 3:30 public hearing, and wherever we are in the board agenda, we'll stop at that point and take that public testimony. That's related to the application of Public Utility District Number 1 for a non-exclusive franchise for a water system within Thurston County rights of way. If you have public comment about that topic, please wait till 3:30 when we reach that public hearing. But anything else is fair game other than the guidelines I went through. So we'll start with Kim Kelly, and then David Hartley's on deck.
Chair Menser, members of the board, my name is Kim Kelly. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard today. I have lived in Thurston County for 27 years, 25 of those in Boston Harbor. I speak today for myself and the Boston Harbor Association, which represents over 100 households in the neighborhood. For the past year, we have advocated the county retain the 27 undeveloped properties it owns in the Boston Harbor area for the purposes of expanding Burfoot Park and maintaining green space in accord with the park's open space and trails plan and the comprehensive plan. You can see these properties in green and labeled C on the map in your handouts. I want to thank Commissioner Mejia and Public Works staff for being responsive to our suggestions about this and assuring us through emails and at a meeting on February 9th that they would not sell these properties in the near future and without giving fair notice first. This gave us time to hopefully work with the county to develop a long-term plan for the park and green space. Unfortunately, none of us understood that some of these properties were tax title and under the jurisdiction of the Treasurer's Office, not Public Works, so the assurance we were given by Public Works did not technically apply to them. Then, on February 26th, we heard the parcel adjacent to our sewer plant was to be sold in 8 days for $2,600 under tax title provisions for unbuildable property. We were a bit blindsided and very concerned. A neighbor contacted the buyer and learned he had bid on the property on a whim in October. He had forgotten he made the bid and withdrew it immediately. I think we actually saved him some money because if it had gone through, he would have been required to pay for it. So, unfortunately for us, Treasurer Gadman mistook the unified neighborhood outcry, 20-some emails that you all received from many neighbors. So he mistook the unified neighborhood outcry and our offers to purchase this parcel as competition for the parcel. He will soon request the commissioners to approve sending the parcel to national auction. This is why 23 neighbors sent letters to you in the last 2 days opposing the sale and pending auction. This parcel is very important to our community, and we would like to see it remain undeveloped, however that can be achieved. This parcel provides a green space screen and security buffer around the treatment plant, a permanent industrial operation located in a dense residential area, albeit surrounded by rural property. We believe that it may be needed in the future for improvements or expansion to the treatment plant that are not currently foreseen by Public Works and that we perhaps can't foresee because of improvements and or additional requirements for pollution control of the sound. It is part of the gateway to our neighborhood. We have spent countless volunteer hours and personal funds to improve the county property next to it in front of the sewer plant. And our neighborhood welcome sign is posted on it. Please refer to the pictures in your handouts. We do understand and respect the county's need to return unused property to the tax rolls. But this 0.07 acres of unbuildable land, I made a typo. But this is 0.07 acres of unbuildable land. It just makes good sense to retain it and perhaps combine it with the treatment plant property and the county-owned property on the other side of it. we respectfully appeal to you and the county treasurer to, one, delay any action, including an auction, on this and other tax title and county-owned parcels in the Boston Harbor area for the foreseeable future, and to work with the Boston Harbor Association and community members to find a solution that meets our mutual and separate goals. I think we can do this. Submitted with respect and appreciation for the work that you do on behalf of Thurston County residents. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is this the only tax title parcel, or is there another one that you would like the board to consider at this time?
There are two other tax title parcels on the treasurer's list. I don't know if there are other tax title parcels. It's not clear on the map who actually owns it or what jurisdiction some of these other lots are. The other two we're not as concerned about. One is adjacent, I think, to other park or county property. So we would just like to look at all of them. The third one, I don't care about so much. We don't care about so much.
So is your request to the board to pause those tax title parcel sales, those three properties, or those three tax title parcels, until you can have a conversation with Public Works and the treasurer?
Yes.
Okay.
Although the third one, we are not concerned about. It is
So-
the two that are along Boston Harbor Road that we are concerned about.
So it would just be the two tax title parcels.
Right. And any others that are tax title properties that are not necessarily on the treasurer's list.
I think that list is supposed to be complete, but. No, okay, but I heard what you said.
Okay.
If there are any others. Okay, thank you. Next up is David Hartley, and Gary Whitley will be on deck.
Hi there. Thanks for the opportunity to address you today. My name is David Hartley. I live at 503 77th Way Northeast in Boston Harbor. And I'm really here to support what Kim had to say as the Boston Harbor representative on the Thurston County Utility Advisory Board. I really want the opportunity, as Commissioner Mejia suggested, to work with Public Works to discuss the opportunities that retaining the specific parcel under discussion provides. The treatment plant footprint is extremely tight. We held an open house at the treatment plant to educate people in the community about the functions of the wastewater plant and how the polluted water was treated before it was discharged to the Sound. That was a couple of years ago. And we were told, don't try to come in and park here because there's no room to park at the treatment plant. Similarly, I'm sure that the Public Works could use more space to store equipment, and there are many opportunities that retaining the parcel would afford. And I want to make sure that the situation is clear. There are, on your map, there are two 30 by 100 parcels. One is immediately east of the treatment plant, and then there's another one next to it. The one that is immediately east of the treatment plant is the one that Kim referred to as probably being up for auction. The other parcel, which is right next to it, is another 30 by 100. The data shows that Thurston County owns that parcel as well, but it doesn't say whether it's a tax title parcel. And the logic of selling off this little narrow strip and having a gap with private ownership between one county-owned parcel and the treatment plant, it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, to be discussed with Public Works, which is part of what I'm supposed to do as a representative on the Utility Advisory Committee. So I think with that, I'll reserve time for other people to make their comments, but unless there's any questions, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Commissioner Evers?
I guess I'd just like to say, don't leave your county commissioners out of that discussion at some point, because I've heard there's some statements that maybe the county didn't want it. I don't know why that statement was made, but sometimes the bureaucrats can give you the wrong information, and these folks up here get elected. Those folks out there do not.
Just one point of clarification, that you used the word retain, and I don't know if that's right for when it's tax titled as opposed to when it's county owned. And I'm not disagreeing, anything you say, like, I'm listening. But words are important, and
Yes,
there's a
they are.
fundamental difference between tax title and between county owned. So when we talk about the tax title, it wouldn't be retaining the property because it's not truly the county's property.
So I would amend what I said to say, I think Public Works should buy that property.
That would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Yes, and there's an ambiguity about the second 30 by 100 as to, because it says it's owned by Thurston County in the records, online records, but
Saw that.
it's kind of weird.
That one is Public Works,
It is.
owned
So
by Public Works.
let's get
I-
those things
Probably
together.
helps your argument.
It does.
So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Gary Whitley and Jackie Ashley will be on deck. Okay. Okay, very good. I see you checked no, sorry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Gary Whitley. I live at 4035 116th Avenue Southeast in Olympia, 98501. I'm also the chair of the Offutt Lake Management District. I have 3 quick points. First, want to express appreciation to Mr. Gelder, who worked with the county treasurer to take quick action to help us resolve some recent assessment errors for Offutt Lake, and that was terrific. Number 2, I'd like to encourage your approval for the Offutt and Pattison RFP IVAMP, which is on your agenda today. This is the expensive scientific study that all LMDs are required to do, and it forms the basis of any work plan we will do after it. So we'll have scientific data after that. And number 3, I'd like to thank Mr. Whitford of Environmental Health for his help in our securing a $30,000 grant to help us pay for the IVAMP. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, anyone else in the room that didn't have a chance to sign up but wanted to provide? Mr. Trobridge.
So I'm also here to address that same issue on the agenda. I'm Brett Trobridge, live on Pattison Lake. Mr. Whitford has supplied the document that the last gentleman discussed. Have you commissioners have a chance to look at it? No.
What document, sir?
It's the proposal that the last gentleman was discussing for officers in Pattison Lake Management Districts, an RFP to go out as soon as you guys approve it. So I just had 2 comments to make about it. You'll notice on page 8 and also on page 3, it refers to the McAllister Springs Geosensitive District, and it said that all requirements of that have to be followed, but I'm not sure people know what that means. I'm afraid the contractors are going to call up and say, what are the requirements? But elsewhere in this thing, it says that verbal promises aren't good. They have to be in writing. So can't we clarify a little bit what we mean by that? It says here, any management techniques that are selected for inclusion in the plan must take into consideration additional protections of the McAllister Springs groundwater area. Actually, that's geosensitive area, which is the primary drinking water source for the city of Olympia. So what does that mean? Take into account consideration additional protections. So I would suggest this sentence be included in there, which you have been passed out. At least what I think that means is treatment should not significantly increase the amount of nitrates entering the aquifer. And if we're in agreement on that, let's put it in, because otherwise nobody knows what we're talking about. What that would mean, of course, would be that you wouldn't be able to do the normal aquatic herbicide treatment where you poison the plants and then leave them to rot in the lake. You'd have to find some way to remove the nutrients, which might include bottom screening or harvesting. So that was one of my three issues that you're all familiar with. Here's the other two, the other document that I've given to you today, which I think should be included in this document also in the appropriate place of your choosing. This has to do with both of the legal issues that I keep bringing up. I'll read it to you. As some waterfront properties were not included in the project, lines between treated and untreated properties will need to be drawn and respected. Patterson Lake is not owned by the state of Washington. Instead, it consists of about 180 individual lake bottom owners, some of which may not wish their properties to be treated. So the people who are making bids for these proposals will know that they have to exclude some properties and include others, and that should be realized when they're making their bids. I've only got 38 seconds left. It's easy for you guys to set up a tax. We all got our tax statements the other day, $512 for the houses we live in. You say I own two, but one of them doesn't have any plumbing and nobody's lived in it for 50 years. Now do something about the facts. This is your chance to actually provide some sort of supervision. Put these things in there so people know what we're talking about. Patterson is a special lake for those three reasons. We're in the McAllister Springs geosensitive area. Some properties were left out. And the lake bottom is owned by the individual property owners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trobridge. Anyone else? Yes, Karen.
Hi, Karen Fraser, former Thurston County Commissioner in the 1980s. And my mind is going down memory lane as I listen to the citizen input here. So while I was a commissioner, we got one of the last grants in the country for the Boston Harbor Sewer Project. And it was for something they called experimental or something, because it was for a very limited area. And we had to define the area. Nobody could hook up outside that area. So that's a piece of history. And the other is lake management districts. When I was a county commissioner, there was no lake management district law. And the only way you could deal with the problems of weeds in the lakes was with a state statute that dealt with lake levels. And that went through Superior Court. That's a really inadequate way to deal with all this. So I helped put together the statute that created lake management districts. So, and I think Long Lake might have been the first one. So there's your history for today.
Well, you spent a lot of time on your work there, Karen, trying to get it all sorted out. All right. Anyone else in the boardroom? Okay, I see a hand on Zoom. Betsy Norton.
Hi there. My name is, can you guys see me?
No camera, just your black
Okay.
box, and you hear your voice clearly.
Okay, good. My name's Betsy Norton. I live in Olympia, and I just had some comments on the docketing process. We're in the middle of a public comment period right now, and the planning people have provided summaries, 2-page summaries of some of the docket items. And I find the information they put out there is either misleading or incomplete. And so I would ask you to correct those issues right now. I'll give you some examples. Am I allowed to share screen?
No.
No.
We're not set up to do that, but
You might tell her we can see her, though.
we can see you now, and you can, whatever you provide, if you can email it in or whatever, we can review it with CPAD leadership.
Okay, all right. I'll just briefly go through. There are 4 different docket items. The Beaver Creek rezone says it's not a code change, but in fact, in order for them to put in a warehouse, it will require a code change to extend the warehousing distance from the freeway intersection from 0.5 to 1.0 miles. So that should be included as a code change. The Upcastle Black Lake Quarry, and Port of Tacoma docket items are all referring to the same piece of code, and there are code changes for all of them. But the parcel list and the map that's showing acts like they're only affecting a small area. But in fact, if they're making a change, it will affect all of the parcels that are zoned RRI. So, and then my third request would be, I am assuming you guys have online somewhere in your servers, the applications and the maps for each of these docket items for the comp plan. I would request that you put the links to those in the summary so that we can take, those of us who are interested can take a look at the details.
Okay,
So you have any questions about that? I'll send this in.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Looking up, anyone else on Zoom? I see mostly staff. Are there any other Zoom participants that wanted to provide public testimony? So, okay, thank you very much. That will conclude public testimony. Let's move to item 2, which is county manager update.
Thank you, Commissioners. Actually, in follow-up to the last comments, but also to a conversation that the board had earlier today, just wanted to remind folks that if you are interested in getting information about docketing or other community planning processes, if you go onto the county's website and go to the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development, their community planning page, you actually scroll down and have an opportunity to subscribe to their email list. And I would encourage folks, if you subscribe to that, then you will get information as docketing conversations come out and other efforts that the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development undertakes. So I would encourage folks to sign up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up is consent agenda. There are items 3A through 3O. Any request to pull an item off consent? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve the consent. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar, approving items 3A through O.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent, non-debatable motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to department item 4A, 2024 lodging tax awards. We have Jenica Machado, Economic Development Manager, to brief the board.
Hello, Jenica Machado, Economic Development Manager. Good afternoon. This is the final action in the 2024 Lodging Tax Advisory Committee process. The Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, or LTAC, met on January 22nd and 25th in 2024 to review the LTAC award applications. The 2024 award cycle has $150,000 available to distribute to qualifying applicants. LTAC received 24 applications within the application window, and this totaled over $318,000 in requested funds. LTAC has recommended a breakdown in the attached exhibit to distribute all $150,000 to 24 applicants. So we are looking for a motion regarding the lodging tax award recommendations. Thank you.
Questions for Jenica? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2024 lodging tax award recommendations from the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the lodging tax recommendations. Any discussion?
I'd like to thank Jenica for all her staff work on this, as well as the LTAC Advisory Committee. This is a big investment that the county gets to make in various events throughout the county, the entire county, every community, and every corner. So this is exciting to get to participate in.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. But I also would like to thank Commissioner Fournier for serving on that committee and clarifying several points. We had a lot of applications this year, which it's great to see that, our community is growing and there's a lot of community events. And so it's very exciting and yeah.
Excellent. The number of events in South County, I feel like is just really growing, and those communities are just thriving. So check into that if you get a chance. There's a lot going on down there. Okay, so no further discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 4A is approved. Item 4B is option to lease agreement with EDF Renewables Distributed Solutions, Inc. It is connected to item 4C. Rebecca Harvey, Climate Mitigation Senior Program Manager, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. In April 2023, Thurston County issued a notice of intent to negotiate a lease of up to 25 acres of the Thurston County Waste and Recovery property for a solar photovoltaic system, or PV system, to generate energy directly into Puget Sound Energy's electric grid and to help achieve Strategy B5 in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, which is to increase the production of local renewable energy. The county received a proposal from EDF Renewables for a solar PV system that would be designed and installed in a manner consistent with best practices for siting solar PV on closed landfills. In August 2023, the project was accepted into PSE's 2023 Distributed Solar and Storage Program. EDF Renewables and the utility are now in the process of negotiating a power purchase agreement with the aim of beginning construction in 2025, pending the potential development of a lease between the county and EDF Renewables. So we bring forth today two agreements that go together. The first one is an option to lease agreement, which grants EDF Renewables the exclusive right and option to lease a defined project area on the Wark property for the purpose of developing, installing, constructing, interconnecting, operating, maintaining, and removing a solar PV generation facility. The agreement establishes an option term of up to 2 years, during which the county and EDF Renewables agree to engage in good faith negotiations regarding a lease of the project area for mutually agreeable terms and conditions. During this term, the county will not use the project area in any way that would conflict or interfere with the potential installation or operation of a solar facility. The intent is to provide EDF Renewables with the sufficient exclusive rights to negotiate a lease necessary to file for a PSE interconnection study, while including certain contingencies and safeguards as to protect taxpayer value with respect to the property. So the second agreement that goes along with this is a right of entry and access agreement. This one grants EDF Renewables the right to enter onto the project area to perform phase 1 site assessment activities to assess the feasibility of a potential solar PV installation. This agreement prohibits soil disrupting, digging, or boring activities, destructive testing, the use of heavy vehicles or construction equipment without the express written permission of the county. And this agreement is also for the same 2-year term during which the county and EDFR would engage in the good faith negotiations regarding a long-term lease. At that, I'm just looking for a potential motion to approve, or maybe it's 2 motions to approve the 2 agreements, and I will take any questions. Thank you.
Questions for Rebecca?
I don't have questions, but I have comments. Would you like me to save them until discussion, sir?
Sure. Let's get a motion. We can have.
I'm going to do it in 2 motions, just to be clear. I move to approve the option to lease agreement with EDF Renewables Distributed Solutions, Inc., granting EDFR the exclusive right and option to lease a defined project area on Thurston County Waste and Recovery Center property pursuant to a lease mutually agreed upon by Thurston County and EDFR for the purpose of developing, installing, constructing, interconnecting, operating, maintaining, and removing a solar photovoltaic generation facility.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to do all that stuff that he said. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
have.
Commissioner Mejia.
Rebecca, first of all, I'm very thankful for you for bringing this project up. And I was very excited when you initially proposed the idea and kind of the blessing from the board to move forward on it. I'm super excited to see that, we've gotten to this point. It's such a great use of space that we cannot do really anything with. And just appreciate the innovation that you've brought. And again, just very excited about this project. And I cannot wait till it actually gets going and we get a renewable source of energy that's going to be, helping us with our climate goals.
Thank you.
like to echo that. Anytime you can turn a liability into an asset, I think it's a win. So I applaud you for your efforts, and I'm excited to see where we go with this.
All right, then, hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now we've got 4C.
I move to approve a right of entry and access agreement with EDF Renewables Distributed Solutions, Inc. that grants EDFR the temporary right to enter onto Thurston County Waste and Recovery Center property for the purpose of performing site assessment activities to assess the feasibility of a potential solar photovoltaic installation. They're big words.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to approve the right of entry and access agreement. Any discussion of this motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. That brings us to item D, 4D, setting a public hearing for continuing a telecommunications franchise agreement with Michelle Telecom, Inc., doing business as Light Curve.
So,
Nicole Martinez to brief the board.
yes, so Nicole Martinez, Budget and Fiscal Manager. Yes, so Michelle Telecom, Inc., doing business as Light Curve, is seeking to continue a non-exclusive franchise agreement to construct, operate, and maintain fiber optic telecommunication lines and system facilities within Thurston County's right-of-ways. This item is to set a public hearing for March 19th. Per RCW 3655-040, which requires that a public hearing be held on the franchise application. In accordance with this RCW, the public hearing notice must be published in 3 locations. On March 4th, those locations were the courthouse, the atrium, and the Olympia Timberland Library, as well as in the Olympian. On March 11th, so next Monday, there will also be a second posting in the Olympian describing what's in that public hearing. So the proposed franchise is similar to other telecommunication franchises that the county has entered into. It is for a term of 10 years and contains obligations regarding Michelle's construction, maintenance of its networks, protections against damage to the county or any third-party property. The county's outside counsel and internal auditors, attorneys, have been involved in the review of the application and the drafting of the franchise agreement. And they have assessed that the provisions of this franchise are appropriate and meet the needs of the county and its residents. Thank you.
Questions for Nicole? Is there a motion?
I move to set a public hearing on March 19th, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in room 110 of the atrium, 3000 Pacific Ave, Southeast, to consider the application for a non-exclusive franchise to Michelle Telecom, Inc., DBA Light Curve, to construct, operate, and maintain fiber optic telecommunication lines and system facilities in Thurston County.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for setting a public hearing on this issue of telecommunications franchise agreement. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Nicole. Next up is item 5A, juvenile court probation, a single source professional services contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship. Ted Bryan, our juvenile detention manager, is here to brief the board on this item 5A.
Hello, Commissioners. Ted Bryan, Juvenile Court Administrator now for the county. Our contract with Heart Strides is funded through the TST, Treatment Sales Tax. It's one of the best interventions we have for youth on our civil and offender caseloads. The money's, again, funded by TST. It would be a 2-year contract. This is an approval of a sole source agreement with an approval by Brandon Weber, the county auditor.
Any other questions for Ted? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the single source professional services contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic Horsemanship for a maximum of $63,740 for the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024, and for a maximum amount of $63,740 for the period of January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, with amounts not to be carried over to a new year.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded regarding the Heartstrides horsemanship contract. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Ted. 6A, Public Health and Social Services, contracts for program management and direct client services related to the LEAD program. Katie Strozik, Social Services Program Specialist, and you have a connected item there with item 6B.
Thank you. Katie Strozik, Opioid Response Coordinator at Public Health. Both A and B are connected. They're both going to relate to our law enforcement assisted diversion program, or our LEAD program. It serves clients with behavioral health conditions and increases pre-arrest diversion in our community, specifically for individuals who have behavioral health conditions or who are experiencing extreme poverty on a continuous basis. Item A is our subcontracts for operating the program, both for the program management contract with Thurston Mason BHASO, as well as the client services contract with Olympic Health and Recovery Services, which is the direct service arm of our BHASO. Item B is going to be our contract between the county and Healthcare Authority, which provides us the money. So item B is receiving the money from Healthcare Authority for the program, and item A is our two subcontracts to continue the program. These are contracts to continue an already operating program. They do go through 2023 until 2025, but the program has been in existence for a couple years now.
Questions for Katie? I do have a question. At the initial outset of this program, I think it was 25% local money, 75% state grant, and then the grant was going to end, and then there was an extension and a kind of re-upping by the state, and I don't know if those parameters change. Are we still at a 25% split, or has that been covered in some different way?
The match that was in the original contract, it's shifted. So Healthcare Authority provides the 1.1 million, and that's contracted to the ASO and OHRS. They then braid the money with a couple different funding sources, including money from Healthcare Authority that goes directly to them for the Recovery Navigator program. And then we also will be putting some treatment sales tax funding in a contract amendment within the next month or so as well. So it's braided from a bunch of different funding opportunities in order to fully fund the program, because just the $1.1 million would not be able to bring the program to capacity.
And that, so the treatment sales tax is a local source, obviously, or what I'm calling a local source. The Behavioral Health Navigator, that was one of the intricacies that I remember. We had, after we launched LEAD, the state said, you know, you need to, regions need to come up with these navigators. But if you have LEAD, you can use that, and you can use it to supplement that, because they're very similar. So we were able to take some of that money and reduce like the other money we were having to use locally.
Yeah, so the two models, the RNP model and the LEAD model, are almost exactly the same. So they're able to function under the same program. And then the TST money is not a match from us. It's just additional funding from the county to supplement the program. Healthcare Authority removed the match requirement within the last contract period.
Perfect, thank you. Questions more? All right, is there a motion?
I move to approve the contracts with Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization for a maximum of $200,470, and the Olympic Health and Recovery Services for a maximum amount of $898,040 to provide program management and case management services for the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to execute the contracts and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve contracts regarding the LEAD program. And is there any discussion on this motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we have a related item 6B. Is there a motion there?
I move to approve the Washington State Healthcare Authority contract K7136 for law enforcement assisted diversion site programming, including program management and case management, for a maximum amount of $1,113,152 for the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the contract and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the Healthcare Authority contract for law enforcement assisted diversion. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to make sure the public knows that on all of these activities that we've been voting on today, we've had a lot of prior discussion. I'd just like to have them know that we're not just passing it through. So, thank you.
Very good. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that covers 6A and 6B under public health. Now we go to 6C, request for proposals for Offutt and Pattison Lake Management District's Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plan Development. Stuart Whitford, Environmental Health Program Manager, to brief the board.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. And so first of all, thank you, Brett, for your comments there. I agree with, any clarifying things we can do to the final, RFP related to McAllister Springs, which is critical that we make sure we do that right. So requesting today for you to authorize Public Health and Social Services to issue a request for proposals for the Offutt and Pattison Lake Management District's Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plan. And as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of the plan is that when problem plant populations limit the uses of a water body, the solution lies in careful management or planning. And finding a remedy to nuisance aquatic plants that is effective, ecologically sensitive, and economically feasible is the goal of the Integrated Aquatic Plant Management Plan. So hopefully that gives you a good nexus of what we're trying to do here. So as the project is basically each LMD received $30,000 from the Department of Ecology for this planning effort and is providing matching funds and additional funds to produce these plans over the next year. So the total cost of the project for both LMDs is $145,000 approximately. So as mentioned, this is a very public process. Their meetings are open to anybody to attend or, listen into. We encourage people like Mr. Trobridge to keep, stating his concerns so that public health is protected. And again, but this is just a planning process. So really this is the beginning of trying to figure out what's best for public health in the lakes and the use of the lakes. Any questions on that one?
So the 145,000, what is that covering exactly?
Basically the two plans, the development of both plans.
Okay.
Essentially over the next year.
60, that's coming from ecology.
Total, yes.
But then the other portion will come from there.
It's up to about 145,000. It could be less.
Okay.
But it's up to that amount.
We didn't have that 60 when we started, but the rest of the money, however much is needed, comes from the Lake Management District fees.
Exactly, but it helps the LMDs who have limited budget and money to, if they don't have to spend that money on the extra 30,000, they can spend it on something else.
Okay, any other questions for Stuart? Is there a motion?
I move to authorize Public Health and Social Services to issue a request for proposals for the Offutt and Pattison Lake Management District's Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plan Development.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the request for proposals for these plan developments. Any discussion?
I just want to encourage Mr. Trowbridge to keep being the watchdog that you've been as this program starts to develop. So this is not the goal line. This is the starting line.
The board would consider putting these two statements in that proposal.
May I ask a clarifying statement? Stuart, with the statements that Mr. Trowbridge presented, you said that, there could be some clarifying language, right? I'm wondering, do we have to wait for that, or can we move forward, and that's something that you administratively can do?
Well, I can take what Mr. Trowbridge has and I can communicate with Mr. Gelder to make that change in that specific section of the RFP that's applicable. And so I would think that if we're all kind of in agreement that it's meeting your needs and our needs, then we'll just go forward and issue the RFP with that clarifying language only in that particular part of the document.
And I guess as that moves forward, I'd like to make sure that legal has an opportunity to review.
I was going to say something similar because Mr. Trowbridge has submitted two statements, one of which is a legal conclusion that I would need to have that executive session that you proposed this morning before I would be comfortable, because I think I've heard different interpretations of that legal principle. This first part that he proposes, if that's a direct, he asked, what does it mean when we're asking that the consultant's going to take into account the McAllister Springs? Well, what I thought it meant was, because I was the one that kind of brought this forward, what I think it means is they read the county's report that he brought forward to us, and and that's what's in black and white and based on study of the county's staff, and that's what is complied with. This statement, he said this afternoon in his public comment that this statement means no chemical treatment could be used, period, per se. We would be limited.
No herbicides, and certainly alum could be used.
Okay, no herbicides could be used, period. That we'd be limited to bottom screening, I wrote down, or harvesting. I don't know if that's what the report says, and if it doesn't say that, then I don't know that I'm comfortable saying that, like, embedding that from the outside into that report that was done in the past. I'd rather keep it to the work that was done by staff in the past that you brought forward, Mr. Trobridge, and have that be what goes forward in the RFP.
I guess, can I clarify my statement?
Yes.
Because these were the ones he submitted, Mr. Trowbridge provided in writing, but at the very beginning, he did provide other clarifications to the RFP, and I was referring to those clarifications, and I'm guessing those are the ones that Stuart also in his initial comment also said, thank you for those clarifications, we're kind of able to, to do them or not do them, but we're able to work on them. So those are the clarifications I was referring to, not the ones that were provided in writing. I feel like these ones would need a little bit more discussion from the board as well as with legal and the LMDs as well. So I guess that's just to provide some clarification on my initial comments.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, it's a good thing to get some of this out in the open, right now, and this is always gonna come up, in the planning process as well. What I will say is our Integrated Pest Management Committee, this county has a more strict interpretation of when and where to apply herbicides in this county than most other counties do. So we have that added area of protection too, to make sure that, so this plan would be run through that committee, as well. And that committee has already approved a prescription for all the LMDs that they could use. And if we're more concerned about McAllister Springs and the Pattison, example, obviously, we're going to do additional review and deep diving into McAllister Springs and what we need to do to make sure, because, there's different ways of getting the weeds taken care of. Some are more labor intensive. There is, the manual type removal process, the cutting type and stuff like that. The key is that what you don't want to do is add a whole bunch of biomass to the bottom of the lake, which our lakes already experience that. We don't want to exacerbate that. So, and that's why, in our IPM committee, they don't approve anything that's a fast-acting herbicide. It has to be a slow-acting herbicide. That's what they've always stuck to. So there are some additional levels of protection that I feel pretty good, that we're going to have a good product at the end,
So slow-acting herbicides still leave rotting material in the bottom of the lake, don't they?
But not as much as the more acute, yeah.
Commissioner Edwards.
I guess for fear of delaying this, which I don't want to do, I would like to make sure that we take into consideration Mr. Trobridge's comments, but not verbatim, because I don't want that to jeopardize this whole process. That's my concern at this late stage of where we are today on approving this. So, and I think that can be accomplished by staff as this process moves forward, because Mr. Trobridge can't be our legal counsel and add verbiage to a contract that we're going out with, and that's my concern.
You haven't provided any answer to the issue. I've got a case that says we own the bottom, you don't.
Well, I know,
So
I know,
at least
but,
tell the contractors that, so they know that's an issue.
and I'm sure we can. We can pass the information on. I don't want to derail this situation at this point in time, so.
And there'll be plenty of additional.
I believe that you're going to try your best to capture the spirit and intent of not only our concerns, but Mr. Trowbridge's concerns. And, so that I believe you're going to do that. And if you don't, we're certainly going to hear about it because this is not the finish line. Like I said, there will be proposals that come into us and we have to evaluate those proposals then to decide if we're going to accept them or not. So there's going to be multiple other layers to this as we move forward. And this is just this is the starting line. And, not to say that at the end, when we get to the finish, you're going to love everything and everybody's going to be happy. But, this is an ongoing process and continue to be the gadfly, the keep at us, let us know when you're concerned. I feel like you should feel welcome here to give your input. Everybody's been.
Concerned. Remember last time I said that all these RFPs had gone out for herbicides.
And they hadn't. We're talking about it right now.
Lake have already accepted that. They've got their 3 herbicides chosen. They got their contractors chosen. Did you guys get in on that? That's a pretty unenvironmental decision to make.
So Commissioners, just to clarify, unfortunately, it gets a little confusing when we have 4 LMDs and all of them are on a different timeline of their existence. We have 2 LMDs that have been around for decades, and they already have done their IVAMP, which is basically that initial document that does that scientific review of that body of water and helps to inform the subsequent work plans that the LMD steering committees will develop with their members around the respective lakes. Offutt and Pattison are not there. This is that first step to going out for a consultant that can actually provide that expertise to help develop that baseline understanding of each one of those bodies of water. And per Mr. Trobridge and concurred by the board, will include a reference for Pattison Lake specifically around the McAllister Springs geological sensitive, too many acronyms, but that is going to be taken into account when whoever is the consultant that wins the contract ultimately will have to take that into account when they're developing that IVAMP for Pattison Lake. From there, then each year becomes an iterative process based on what resources are available to the LMD and what is sort of the priority areas to treat will then drive what that plan is and what the treatment might be, if it's mechanical or otherwise. And so it's always difficult when we're kind of conflating and putting all decisions together when in fact they are a series of decisions that are yet to be made.
Lake by
Especially
lake.
for Offutt and Pattison.
Call for the vote.
One more.
I'm going to let Commissioner Edwards. We don't usually have a board discussion that involves back and forth with public, so I'm going to ask that to be limited, but Commissioner Edwards, go
Mine will
ahead.
be very limited. I want to just take this opportunity for, just to recognize all the work that Stuart and Rob put into this to get us to this point compared to where we were, say, a year ago. And so just thank you all. And I can tell you that I hear from the Lakes people quite regularly. And this, we're not going to make it perfect, I guess. But boy, have we come a long ways, and it's to your credit, both of you. So
Commissioner, when you say lakes people, you mean the steering committees of the lake management districts, right?
Yes. So
just to clarify that.
Thank you very much, and I think you'll see that we might not have it perfect, but we're headed in the spirit of getting there.
Okay, I will call for the vote on this item. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you, Stuart. Next up is item E, and it's an agreement with Catholic Community Services, Mark Moffett.
Commissioner, we have item D.
Did I skip D? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, sorry. Request for proposals for Lawrence Lake Management District Integrated Phosphorus Plan Development.
Thank you, Commissioners. So today, Public Health and Social Services is asking you to authorize us to issue an RFP for Lawrence Lake Integrated Phosphorus Plan Development. Another word for this is a cyanobacteria management plan. And so kind of the nexus of that is Lawrence Lake has a documented issue with cyanobacteria. We talked about what those organisms are. They're highly successful organisms that will oftentimes outcompete the other types of algae. They can become dominant, and when they do, they can create toxic blooms that can cause illness in humans, and also they can bioaccumulate in fish, and they can be airborne in some cases. And so the idea behind this plan is to address the issue of phosphorus, which is a limiting nutrient for algae, so that if phosphorus is reduced, typically the availability of phosphorus is reduced, then algae counts will go down. And the idea is that it'll become more in balance with the green algae, cyanobacteria, and there'll be more healthy ecosystem for everything. The project is, again, funded by the State Department of Ecology grant of $50,000 from their lake algae program. The total estimated cost of the project is $107,000, which includes local match of the grant and additional project costs. This project is expected to be done at the end of 2025. I'll answer any questions that you have.
Questions on this item?
Move to authorize Public Health and Social Services to issue a request for proposals for the Lawrence Lake Integrated Phosphorus Plan Development.
Second.
All right, 3 seconds there. I heard Commissioner Mejia first, so we have a motion and a second to authorize Public Health and Social Services to do an RFP on this plan. Any discussion of this motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item E, we're on 6E, is agreement with Catholic Community Services. Mark Moffitt from Public Health and Social Services to brief the board. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mark Moffitt, Public Health and Social Services. This contract is between Catholic Community Services and Thurston County Public Health and Social Services to provide up to 3 shelter beds each night for homeless veterans at a cost of $45 per bed per night, for a total contract amount not to exceed $49,250 for the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. And I want to emphasize that this is a contract for reimbursement, meaning if a qualified veteran doesn't stay, the county doesn't pay.
Questions on this item? So discussed this morning quite a bit. Okay, is there a motion?
Move to approve the contract with Catholic Community Services for the amount of $49,275 for the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024 to provide shelter services for eligible homeless veterans at the Drexel House Emergency Shelter, and authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve this contract with Catholic Community Services. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is 6F. It's also an item for Mark, and it's to set a public hearing to consider an ordinance to expand the Veterans Advisory Board membership.
Yes, sir. We're requesting a public hearing to consider changing the Veterans Advisory Board ordinance to expand the membership from 9 to 15 members. The purpose of expanding is to allow the Veterans Advisory Board to work on multiple projects to improve services for veterans in Thurston County, as well as bringing in diverse perspectives to identify issues our veterans are facing in the county.
Questions for Mark on the expansion proposal? This will be just a public hearing. Is there a motion?
I move to set a public hearing for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in room 110 of the atrium, 3000 Pacific Avenue Southeast, to accept and consider public comments on the proposed ordinance amending Thurston County Code Section 2.112.030 to expand the Veterans Advisory Board membership from 9 to a maximum of 15 members.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to set this public hearing on Veterans Advisory Board membership. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Public Works is up next. Request for qualifications for on-call engineering and professional consulting services. And we have Dawn Ashton. Got it. To brief the board. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Dawn Ashton, Procurement Specialist for Public Works. We are requesting authorization to issue a request for qualifications for on-call engineering and professional consulting services to individual contracts with consulting companies for engineering and professional consulting on an as-needed basis as budget allows. After issuance of the RFQ and evaluation of the proposals received, we will return to the board and request permission for award to the companies that have been selected. The maximum term of the contract is 5 years with a 2-year base or initial term and then 3 one-year renewal options. The ceiling amounts per the contracts will vary depending on the service categories that are awarded and the planned projects for the term of the contract. These on-call contracts will support planning, design, construction, and other activities related to public facilities. We have a set of these contracts in place right now, which are scheduled to expire in July, and they've been very helpful. The benefits have been to the department to efficiently take on tasks requiring skills and expertise that's not available in-house, to improve timely responses in the event of an emergency or unexpected projects or unplanned needs, and advanced work that would have otherwise been postponed due to limited resources. The funding for the projects will be from various sources such as grants, the county road fund, the water and sewer utilities, stormwater, solid waste, or other programs and departments. None of the projects will be funded with federal funds because those will go out separately for design effort. So we are requesting a motion to approve issuance of this request for qualifications for on-call engineering and professional consulting services.
Any questions for Dawn? Is there a motion?
I move to authorize Public Works to issue a request for qualifications for on-call engineering and professional consulting services.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize the RFQ. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Takes us to item 8, which are standing items. Commissioner reports on work sessions, assigned committee meetings, or any community activity. Let's start with Commissioner Klaus.
Thank you. Last week I had a BHASO regular meeting. I'm excited about the approval of some of the new Trobridge contracts to include FHARPS and FPATH. FHARPS is Forensic Housing and Recovery through Peer Services, and FPATH stands for Forensic Projects for Assistance in Transition from Homelessness. These, along with the OCRP contract, I'm really excited about them coming to Thurston County. OCRP is something that is new to the county as part of the 3rd phase of the Trobridge legislation and implementation. So I'm really excited about that. We also had a regional housing council meeting last week with conversations around policy discussion related to affordable housing on a regional level. And I also had some one-on-one meetings. I met with Cheryl Haywood, the executive director for Timberland Regional Library. That was a pretty good conversation. I learned about a lot of the different community organizations and agencies that they're plugged in with that I had no idea about. I also asked her a little bit about resources they have available for research, and I thought it was really cool that they have like peer-reviewed databases that you can access through their website. Speaking of research, another meeting I had was a one-on-one with Kimberly Mackey, who is the Recruitment and Retention Officer for Washington State Patrol. And we discussed research around police officer recruitment and retention efforts to better understand what works, what doesn't work, and how we can leverage the data that exists, find better ways to collect more comprehensive data, and ensure that we bring the voices of individuals with lived experience in the justice system to the conversation. These conversations and further research will inform myself and the Board of County Commissioners around what to look for when we come back to review our pilot program for the lateral incentive program with the Thurston County Sheriff's Department in a couple of months. One thing I left out as far as the BHASO meeting was a discussion around a transition to a new director with the retirement of their current director, Mark Friedman. And then lastly, I met with Public Health and Social Services staff to discuss the Youth Cannabis and Commercial Tobacco Prevention Program, or YCCTPP, which I thought was a pretty amusing acronym because it's the longest one I've heard so far. This program supports youth and young adults through prevention and support for cessation, using evidence-based services, outreach and education, youth participatory action research, and partnerships with schools to improve outcomes around disciplinary procedures for tobacco, vape, and cannabis use. So I was really enthusiastic about the work that they have going on. That's all I have.
Can you, the person you met with about police retention, who was that?
Kimberly Mackey, Maki. She works for Washington State Patrol. She's the recruitment and retention officer.
And speaking of acronyms, you used one at the beginning, OCSRP. You said coming to
yeah.
Thurston County, something about True Blood.
Yeah, OCRP is the Outpatient
OCRP.
Competency Restoration Program.
I just want to point out the state patrol's process is vastly, vastly different than police. So police officers, municipal police officers, county, like we have a very different process than WSP. So just keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
I think the only thing I'm going to comment on today, we didn't have anything earth-shattering on any committee assignments, but constituent issues really took up a lot of time, and that had to do with numerous land use complaints that have to do with criminal activity surrounding those particular locations in different neighborhoods throughout the county. And I think we've made some progress on that even today, so thank you.
Commissioner Fournier?
I have no update since I gave an update, I think, yesterday.
Okay,
So
very good.
For me, attended TRPC Council. I gave a report to the board on my abstention from that vote. I attended LSC in the morning on behalf of Commissioner Fournier, and then he took over. And he took over right as they were making the vote. And again, the discussion at the Legislative Steering Committee has been in regards to the new voting setup. And of course, the conversation is still trying to keep Snohomish and Pierce County into the Washington State Association of Counties and making sure that King County comes back.
Is there a new voting setup?
No.
didn't even stand a chance.
Attended Partners for Children, Youth, and Families Steering Committee, and we will be having a retreat coming up soon. Attended Thurston Mason BHASO. Commissioner Klaus gave a thorough report. We'll be having follow-up conversations, especially on the succession planning. Thanks for the heads up, Commissioner Menser and Commissioner Edwards. For the succession, I feel like every time I go on a board, there's some kind of transition happened at Intercity and Orca and let's see, I attended the RHC as the alternate, attended executive seminar for emergency services, and big props to Kyle and Ben. They did a really fantastic job. And then I had the opportunity to go paint a mural with my kiddos at the Olympia Center. And if you see some ducks and a squirrel, that was done by my girls. But one of the things that I was talking with the group who organized this is that they would love to do a community mural in one of the county buildings, and as a way to kind of bring the community together, and people can come in as they want. But I thought that would be just a great way to bring community together in a different place. I was thinking maybe at the fair, we have different buildings that need a little bit of a pick-me-up, and having something like that at the fair and bringing community together and painting a cool little mural might be a cool idea. So that is it for my report.
Okay, for me, Alliance for Healthy South Sound Council meeting. canvassing board, meeting about forests, continue to have meetings about forest issues in Capital State Forest, sea level rise meeting, the lot meeting, and I was elected president of the lot board. First time I've had a leadership role in an external committee like that,
Oh,
but,
man.
Congratulations.
so, anyway, that was exciting, and it's my report. We'll go to the assistant county manager.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the following is a look at your calendars for the next 3 weeks where at least a quorum of the board will be present. So tomorrow, we did cancel your work study session for the morning, but we will be convening at 2 p.m. Here in the atrium in room 110. There's a possibility that more than one commissioner will be attending the 2024 legislative virtual update sponsored by WASAC on Friday at noon. But again, that is virtual on Zoom. Looking to next week, on Monday, the 11th, from 10 to 12, the board will have a work session here in chambers. There is, again, from 12 to 1, a WASAC virtual assembly that more than 3 commissioners may be in attendance. And then in the afternoon, there will be a commissioner's check-in here as well from 2 to 4:30. On Tuesday, the 12th, there will be agenda setting from 9 to 11 here, and then followed by the board and appointed directors meeting from 11 to 12. And then in the afternoon from 1 to 3 p.m. will be the board and elected officials meeting. As you know, we changed up a rotational program, so once a quarter, there will be at least 3 elected offices that will come and have a conversation with the board. Next week will include Superior Court, the prosecuting attorney's office, and the sheriff. That'll be followed in the afternoon where the board will be in attendance at the Board of Health meetings beginning at 3:45. On Wednesday, the 13th, there will be a board work session in the morning from 9 to 12. And then there is a special meeting of the board that will take place between 2:30 and 4 p.m., which will be a tour of Quixote communities in their Shelton Village. That's located at 2471 North 13th Street in Shelton. And then in the evening, there will be a distinguished leaders program from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Martin Norman Worthington Center.
Could I just throw in, I'm likely to miss the morning session.
On the 13th?
Yes.
Okay.
So if Vice Chair can be ready or otherwise handled. I might be able to listen in remotely, but I won't be in a position to chair the meeting.
Okay.
Because I'll be at minimum traveling by car at that time.
Thank you. And then Friday, the March 15th from 8 to 9:30 is STEADY, which is the South Thurston Economic Development Initiative. And looking into the third week, on Monday, March 18th, is a board work session from 10 to noon. Again, a virtual assembly with WASAC at noon, and from 2 to 4:30, a commissioner's check-in. Tuesday, March 19th, will be the agenda setting from 9 to 12, with a board meeting that afternoon from 2 to 5. And that is it for the next 2.5, 3 weeks.
Okay, that takes us to item 8C, which is just to adjourn. We are going to have a public hearing in about 6 minutes. So if there's nothing further, we'll be adjourned. We'll be back here for a public hearing in just a few moments.